Hello out there, and today we're going to be disassembling the newest iteration of the Boker Kihon, and I'm going to be showing you what is just a pretty big issue with the way that it's executed, not just with the materials chosen, but just the quality control and the lack thereof that has been sort of a pretty consistent problem with some of the Bokers that I have experienced in my time. Before we get too far into that, though, I do want to start the video out by giving a shout out to a supporter of the channel, a guy by the name of P. Watkins. Here are a few of his pictures of like his EDC gear and his knife collection. He's got some really good stuff. Got a couple Benchmades, a 940-2, a Griptilian. He takes some pretty good pictures as well. So I can definitely appreciate a good knife picture because so much of my stuff comes out blurry. He also does have this Spyderco here, and then a ZT0452. So thank you again to P. Watkins for all of the support. Guys, if you want to be featured in a shout out, get some of your EDC gear on the channel, or a knife picture, your collection, whatever it is, just shoot me an email, jtsknifelife@gmail.com. Let me know how long you've been a sub, how long you've been involved with the channel, what your favorite brands are, a little bit about yourself, your favorite models, that sort of thing. And yeah, I'll get you in line and get some of your gear posted in one of my future videos. All right. But getting back to this Burnley Kihon, I'm a big fan of this design, guys. It is one that I've had before. I've handled a few different versions of it, and it has always, for me, just escaped that problem area that I said that Boker just sort of seems to have when it comes to their level of execution. I've had some pretty iffy stuff from them, and I've handled some stuff that was very iffy as well. You know, and they've always had great designs. They get the great designs from the Lucas Burnleys or the Brad Zinkers and stuff like that, and then they just don't really execute consistently good products. Again, this is just my perspective from what I've seen and what I've handled. And the Kihon has been a pretty darn good one in the past. And then recently, the Boker Gust, I mean, this is one of my favorite knives of 2019. Just a super solid EDC, a little bit of a tank, but it is really well built and just a beautiful knife. So, yeah, I was trying to not necessarily get back into Boker, but, you know, just like keeping my eyes on what they were doing. And when Blade HQ announced this release, this exclusive in an automatic version that has an aluminum frame and AUS-8 blade steel, I thought, yeah, all right, let's get in on that, because I've been toying with the idea of bringing automatics back into my collection. You know, there's so many great designs that you miss out on if you don't like autos, and I mean, I'm able to carry them like somewhat legally in the area where I live, and I don't know, I just wanted to get one back in the hand and see how it was to EDC. And this being such a great EDC design, I thought it would be a good one to go with. And my buddy Nick Maffei from Instagram was kind enough to go out of his way and get me one of these for free as a gift. So very cool of him. Thank you. And he also pimped it out with, I think this is a Sabenza clip that he put on here. So yeah, sort of makes it all my own. So really good gift and an exciting thing to get into the hand. And I'm not going to go too far into all the little like details and every aspect of the model, just because it's one that has been out for a while and a lot of people already know my feelings on it. But before I take it apart and show the big, sort of pretty close to a deal killer kind of thing, I will go through just some of the things that jump out at me about the knife. So I really just, if we're talking about just the overall design and the lines, it sort of does have, for me, like almost an Asian kind of feel to it. And I don't have any like real background historically when it comes to why that is. I mean, I know Burnley has some designs that really have that kind of influence, but this one, it does sort of have a curvature that reminds me of some like Asian kind of designs. But more than that, it's just beautiful. Like, forget where it's from or whatever that is. I mean, it's just a good looking knife. And sometimes when you change and have different variations, certain things work better than others. And what I'll say is, of all the Kihons that I've handled and seen, for some reason, the aluminum just works for me. It really just works, and I'm impressed with it. It isn't this like crazy high-end kind of material, but it just seems very functional. And yeah, it is a little bit slick, and I would prefer more of like a powdery coating here, but the machining that they've done and this kind of texturing here actually makes up for it. And just the way that this knife fits into hand, it is excellent. So I got to say that. I really do like the look of the black on black, but there are different variations that Blade HQ has. They do have, I think the only one in stock right now is, I want to say it's a stonewash with a black aluminum handle, but then there's also this one, and then there's a green aluminum handle and a copper wash. So yeah, just a couple of different choices, and this knife comes in at around $49, but I've seen it on there on sale a bunch of times. I think I've seen it as low as like $35, so I don't know how often they'll be restocking it, but it's definitely one that yeah, you'll be able to get it at a decent price if I think you wait long enough. So again, not 100% sure about that and how big and how long this run will go on for, but I bet you it'll get back on sale if they keep restocking it. But anyway, the action on it is really good, really nice and snappy. So yeah, definitely like that. And it is easy to close. Well, if you don't let your finger slip, it is easy to close one-handed. And depressing the button is very easy, but it's not easy to do like accidentally, you know. There's no safety on this, and I haven't seen or felt the need for one at all. So for anyone who's worried about stuff like that, I mean, you can worry as much as you want, but I mean, I'm very active going in and out of my pockets while I'm at work and when I'm carrying this, and I never had a single issue with just accidentally misfiring this. So yeah, and every single time I fired it, it locked up. So some of those Kershaw Launch Series ones that I've handled and I've seen, sometimes they fire so hard that they like bounce, and it never doesn't always catch and lock up. That has not been the case ever with this knife, so that's definitely a good thing. But let's get into the negative and the thing that really could be the deal breaker. So what I found and what I noticed was, you know, a little bit of play, side to side and up and down. You know, out of the box, a little bit of that. And you know, with autos, sometimes that stuff happens, and me not being an auto guy, I get it. Like I'm not really in the know, and maybe I should be more like accepting of stuff like this. Whatever, it's still not something that I wanted. And what I found was that when I tightened the pivot screw as far as like I needed to in order to take away this movement, the action was non-existent. So I thought, all right, well, let's have an adventure. Let's take the knife apart. I've never disassembled an auto. I've never like maintained or done anything with one. So let's see how that happens and what's inside, and if we can maybe lubricate this thing and get it really kicking on all cylinders. So I did that, and I'm going to do it again right now and show you the problems that I came across. Another positive, though, as we get there, is that all of the hardware here is T8, and there is not a lot of it. So actually taking this knife apart and maintaining it, it's pretty easy. There's not a lot to do. And there you go, knife's apart. So right here, you can see we have the spring for the button lock. So, you know, and I do understand, guys, I've had a number of knives that have like this button lock kind of mechanism, whether they're autos or manuals. More often than not, you do end up with a little bit of up and down play as things sort of like set in. It does happen. I don't think that it's a security issue really at all in this case, and so, you know, it's not a huge deal, but again, it was something I still wanted to try to look into. So I took the knife apart, and so here's our coil. A lot of you can probably see the issue already with the washer, but we'll get back to that in just a second. So how this works is we have a coil here that has two endpoints The first endpoint, as you can see, is in this notch, and so that's what holds it into place. And then the other endpoint is right here in front of my finger, and that goes up into a hole in the blade. So here's the blade, here's the hole, it goes up into there. And so as you close the knife, it winds the coil, and then when you push the button for the button lock, it releases it, and the whole thing fires. Pretty simple system. It works. It's really easy to, it's really difficult to screw up when you disassemble it. I mean, there's really nothing that you can do that will muck up what's going on here, because there aren't many pieces, which again is a positive. But here's a big negative. I took the knife apart for the first time and I saw this and I was like, all right, you're telling me that this knife has one single washer and it's a plastic one. And not only is it a plastic one, but this thing is just jacked up beyond all understanding. And guys, I mean, I've had this knife for a couple weeks. I've carried it. When I first got it, I carried it for almost a week straight. But I didn't do anything crazy, like hard use with it. I mean, I fidgeted with it. I opened and closed the darn thing about 1,000 times. Because, like, who wouldn't? It's an auto. Obviously, that's what you're going to do. But, like, should this have happened within a week? Definitely not. All right, so, yeah, that's that discussion. But what is it that happened? Like, what is the problem? Why did this occur? And, you know, when I first took the knife apart, I was filming it and taking photos for this video, and, you know, I didn't really know what the video was going to be like, you know, just taking some photos just to have an idea and just be able to splice in some footage if and when the time came. And I was putting the knife back together and I realized, oh, that's what it is. It's that Boker, when they were building this, if you're going to have a piece that goes through your knife, through your blade, it better not go through the other side and rip up the washer. And that's exactly what was happening. So, let me see if I can show you this. So, let's get the pivot in. And excuse me for my hands being the most dirty and disgusting hands that you ever saw, but it's sort of the world we live in today. All right, so we've got the pivot. And one other thing, just a quick tangent. One thing that I really noticed and I've taken care of to a great degree was just an excessive amount of Loctite. There was a ton of Loctite on at the pivot, and for me, guys, that is just a huge red flag anytime I see that. When I see a lot of Loctite, and I've seen it on a number of Bokers, to be honest, a number of models from a lot of companies, but Boker really just likes to paint it on. Anytime I see that on a model, it just makes me think that they're using it to mask some deficiencies in the build quality. You know, if you have to use that much Loctite, like, there's a reason. And maybe the reason is with an automatic knife, you don't want people having to tinker with it, and you don't want things to get loose, and you don't want people to have to go inside and disassemble in auto because who knows what can happen. Maybe I can buy that. But it was just a lot of Loctite, and it made it, I don't know, just jumped out at me as being something that wouldn't necessarily be a positive thing. So, anyway, back to it. So, there's our coil. We've got the hole in the blade, so now we have to line these things up. Let me see if I can do this. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Trying to look through the camera isn't easy. All right, so there we have it. So we got it in, and you can see there's the part of the coil sticking through the blade. Wait, what did I just say? Oh, it's sticking through the blade. Wow, so what do you think is going to happen if it's sticking through the blade, and then I'm going to put this plastic washer on top? Oh, this sharp, jagged piece of metal might rip up my washer? Obviously, and that's exactly what happened. So you can see that coil, as it tightened, it ripped up the washer. It continued to do it in like a line, and then maybe it adjusted and it ripped it in another line. So what I was able to do was go in and just sort of sand it down with the Dremel to keep it from being that big of an issue. But I mean, it was sticking up to an extent that was, it wasn't a good thing. It really wasn't acceptable at all. So, you know, it's something that for me, I don't know if you'd call it an absolute deal breaker, because I mean, I've had the knife back together and it still functions and it's still fine, and I don't think that it's going to be like that detrimental to the way the knife actually works. But that said, I mean, you want a knife to be able to lock up better than this one does. You want a knife to have good materials that give you confidence when you use it. And this one, it just seems like a letdown. It seems like something that could have been a big win and a big home run. And instead what we have is something that is just not on par with the level of quality that you would hope you'd get in a knife that you know, spend $50 for. So I don't know. Like I said, I know that this knife can still be a good tool. And I also know that just contacting Boker for a replacement washer really wouldn't be that big of a thing. But I don't know. I wish the design was a little more friendly to creating a better lockup and just a better overall product. I don't hate it, but I just think it's another great knife design that Boker sort of let slip out of their hands. You know, they didn't really execute it to the highest level, and they've done so well with the Kihon up until now, and this one is just a near miss. So really cool that it's an auto, and I tightened it too far, and hold on. Really cool that it's an auto and that the aluminum is so good. There's so many great positives about this design and this model, but just a near miss at the end of the day. So yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts and any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions. Let me know in the comments down below as well. All right, and again, jtsknifelife@gmail.com if you are interested in getting your EDC gear posted in one of my videos. All right, thanks for watching. Take care. I will talk with you soon. Have a good one.